Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker. Look here, y'all. I've told y'all before in other episodes that having a good celly is vital to surviving the prison experience, period, point blank. It's probably the most important part of what it takes to survive this environment. If you don't have a good celly, you can't sleep at night, you can't relax when you're locked down because this person is locked in a room with you. And if he's not the type of person that you can coexist with, I'm not saying trust. Trust is a higher standard than coexisting. If he's not somebody that you can coexist with, somebody that you can uh, hope would respect the boundaries and not go through your mail and not use your property when you're not around, not steal your commissary from you, things like that. You know what I'm saying? People that have those just boundaries of decency, you have to have that. Now, again, I know using that language is surprising to a lot of you because you're probably thinking, okay, these people are criminals. They committed crimes from A to Z. And what boundaries of decency do they have? Well, you'll be surprised uh, at the boundaries that people have in here. In a lot of situations, there are more boundaries to decency in here than there are out there, and that just may be hard to believe. But I'm gonna keep it real. I'm gonna keep it real. Everybody doesn't have that in here. Everybody doesn't have that. If the people that get good sellers, all of them get good sellers, then where do those bad sellers end up? They end up in rooms with people that they can take advantage of and will take advantage of. And that's what I'm going to be talking about here, right? So, because in here it doesn't matter if you're blind, deaf, or whatever, the same rules apply. Period. You would hope that you would get somebody that would be empathetic to the circumstances of another person if they were not physically able to take care of themselves in this environment. You would hope that, but that's just not the case, right? In this episode, I'm going to tell you about a blind inmate who was taken advantage of by his cellie. It can get ugly in here, y'all, no matter your situation. So here we go, y'all. This episode is called I Can't See. Would you read my mail to me? Okay, y'all, check me out here. Check me out. This older guy that came into the system. When I say older guy, he was already in his late 50s. You know what I'm saying? And but he looked older. He looked like he had a rough life. And on top of that, he couldn't see. He was blind. He was blind. And that made life for him way more complicated in this environment. You can imagine uh, that a person that had no sight would learn to navigate the world out there because, a lot of people out there would, especially I would imagine that he grew up with and around, would be sympathetic and empathetic to his situation. His living arrangement would be more conducive to his situation, but not in here. Not in here. He has to navigate the same steps that we have to navigate. He has to use the same showers that we have to use and all of the other things that happen in here. There are no special arrangements made for a person that has a limitation to the extent that he can't see. Uh, so when he got here, he was put in the cell like everybody else with another individual. And the individual that he was put in the cell with, you would think, from the outside looking in, dude seemed to be straight. And when I say straight, I mean to this prison standard of straight. He respected boundaries. He didn't get involved in things that he didn't have no business being involved in. He minded his own business and all of those types of things, right? But what we learned uh, is that he wasn't that type of dude. He was somebody else altogether, right? So here's what happened. You know, his cellie gets put in the cell. The blind guy gets put in the cell, right? And after a few days, you know, he started to see that the blind guy, he had family that were really looking out for him because he's getting mail sent to him. Some of it was in Braille, which surprised me. Some of it wasn't. You know what I'm saying? He had a lot of women writing him. I don't know what the guy's circumstances were when he was on the town, but from what I understand, he had money. And if you have money and you come into this environment, guess what? You're going to be, unless you can take care of yourself, you're going to be put on the side of the prey and not the predator. And his cellie saw that. He was getting the JPays and the money sent to his books. He had plenty of money put on his books, so he didn't have to worry about food from the commissary. He didn't have to worry about packages. He didn't have to worry about anything like that. You know what I'm saying? If it was time for him to get a clothing package or a food package, he got it. If it was time for him to go to the commissary or want to use the phone, he was able to do it. You know what I'm saying? He learned to navigate those types of things. It was amazing to me when I see him go to the phone. He'll put his hands on those buttons, and his head could be turned towards you. He hitting them buttons like he was actually seeing the numbers. It was an amazing, amazing thing. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, wow. You know, I had started to even practice doing it. You know, I got a feel for where I know the numbers are on the thing, and I would turn my head and I try to hit them. It took a long time for me to figure out how to navigate that and dial the numbers to my house, you know, my family's house, the people that I love, without actually looking at it. So I had to give him all the respect in the world, you feel me, on how he was able to do that in such a short period of time. You know, just coming in here. But, you know, the dial tone buttons are the same everywhere. You know, they're all in the same order. But that is part of his life. That was part of his life. He had to be able to do things like that. And then help me see life from a different perspective. Now, his cellie, on the other hand, he turned out to be a master manipulator. That's what he was. But he didn't show that because he was never put in a situation where he was able to exercise those demons until he got a cellie that was blind, that needed him. He was one of those types of person. You know, the more you needed him, the more he would take advantage of you. Now, you watch those types of people out there. You'll have people that really get off on that. The more that you show them, listen to me, y'all, the more that you show them that you need them, the more they will manipulate and use you, take advantage of you. And that's what happened in this situation. So, as the story goes, he asked his cellie one day to read a letter to him that he had received from this young lady that was writing him. The letter was not in Braille, of course. That's why he needed his cellie to read it to him. And he did. He read the letter to him, told him what she said, and he helped him write back. Surprisingly, now check this out though, y'all. Check this out. And I found out later on that he hadn't always been blind because he could sit down and write a letter. Man, look, it was the most amazing thing. He would take something, you know, like a ruler or something, and he'd lay it on the paper so it'd be straight across, and he would write his lines straight across, and then he'd move it down a little bit, put his finger down there so he would know how far to drop it, and then he'd write the second line. Oh, it was the most amazing thing, man. It was the most amazing thing. Now, keep in mind, you know, think about this, y'all, when you write a letter. When we're writing, we're usually looking down to make sure we're spelling the words correctly. You know what I'm saying? And even when I'm doing it, I still misspell some words every now and then. He didn't misspell a thing. He'd sit there and write and just write those letters, fold it up, address the envelope. It already had stamps on it. I don't know how that his cellie must have put them on there, but he would drop those letters in the mail, and I'm looking at him and saying, that man is not blind. But he was. He was. You know what I'm saying? He was. Now, from my understanding, when I had the opportunity to talk to him, how I got this story, he said he could see shapes. You know, and it would all be black, but, you know, he couldn't see. Especially, you know, if you would back away from you, he couldn't see anything. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, this is what happened. After a few months of his cellie reading the letters to him, he was curious that his cellie wasn't being honest with him about what the female friend was saying because he knew this lady. He knew her. And some of the things that his cellie was telling him that she was saying, he knew that was like out of character for her. You feel what I'm saying? She was asking him to be more erotic in his writings and this and that. And they didn't talk like that. You know, he came from a different world, you know what I'm saying, where they didn't get down like that. And he started to suspect that was his cellie saying that to him, you know what I'm saying, to try to see what was up with this young lady, you know? And, but what his cellie didn't understand is that he was privately, when his cellie wasn't around, writing her back and asking her this, and he would mail the letters out before his cellie would know. And he found him somebody else to read those letters. So he started to see that his cellie was lying to him. He wasn't a stupid person. He was just in this environment around, you know what I'm saying, somebody that was manipulative and not trustworthy, you know? So here's the thing. His cellie started to suspect that he was going around him. So now that anger, that jealousy, that envy, that manipulative side of him just started to come out more and more. He was like, yeah, I'm going to get him. He was feeling like his cellie, the blind person, had done him wrong by going around him. Now think about that. The person that's doing the lying and the manipulating, the person that's doing the lying and manipulating is the one that gets offended when the person that's being manipulated catches him and tries to figure out a way to get around him. He's upset about what? He's upset because he's been figured out. And that's how it goes when you figure out somebody that's been manipulating and using you, when you expose them either directly or indirectly, and he exposed them indirectly. He didn't confront him directly, he just started to go around him, but he exposed him nonetheless, and once he felt like he had been exposed, he gets upset. Now, I know you know some people like that, because prison is full of people like that. Full of people like that. So here's what happened. This dude gets so mad. Now, his habit started to show. You know, he used to get high a little bit. And apparently, he still did. He had those connections out there. But he never had a way to get it in. He hardly went to visit. You know, and then when he did go to visit, I think it was his mom or somebody like that visited him. So he saw an opportunity to use dude to get something in. Now, I know you're saying, well, how is he going to use a blind person to get something in? Okay, let me tell you how. See, there are multiple ways of getting things in here. And one of the ways that people get stuff in prison, drugs, y'all, is through the mail. And I know you're saying, wait a minute. They go through their mail before they get it. That is true. Our mail comes in. The mail personnel get it. They make sure to check it for contraband before they bring it to us. You feel what I'm saying? They don't read it. Well, they're not supposed to, but you never know what's going on. You just never know people. But anyway, they open up all the mail, make sure nothing's in it. They run it through some machines to make sure ain't no drugs in it and all that other kind of stuff, because you got to be careful now these days, especially with fentanyl and all that out there and stuff like that. And guess what happened when they ran the blind dude's mail through the scanners and the machines? Oh, it showed up for Suboxone. They had double layered the envelope, right? And let me explain to you what I mean by double layered. Use your imagination. It really sounds like, the way it sounds is what it is. They took an envelope, a single envelope, right? Then they took another envelope, but they cut it. You know what I'm saying? It's not just stuck all together, but they cut it at the very bottom so it's open. You can actually stick your hand all the way through it, right? But they took that envelope and put it inside the envelope that was still intact and glued it to the inside of the envelope. But before they glued it to the inside of the envelope, they lined it with Suboxones, okay? They lined it with Suboxone. So when you open it, if you just open it, you're not going to see anything but the letter inside. You're not going to see the Suboxones, right? Okay. Now, how do you get around, you know, because Suboxones are orange or whatever. Unless they change colors or whatever. But these were orange. But how do you get around the color? Because if you look, well, you got to think about it. The envelopes are thick. They're thick enough to where you can't see through them unless a light flashes through. But guess what? like most people in the penitentiary, they didn't think it all the way through. You know what I'm saying? They don't think stuff all the way through, and he didn't either. They ran it through some kind of machine down there that detected something was there. And lo and behold, when they looked at it through the little scanner thing, they saw that the envelope was lined with 3 rows of 4, meaning that's 12 Suboxones. Now keep in mind now, it's a lot of money in here. It's a lot of money in here, you know, especially if you're somebody that doesn't have a lot, because you can pay anywhere from $7 to $12 for a Suboxone out there, depending on where you get it from and who you get it from. And in here, turn around and sell it for $100, some places $200 per. So do the math. So he looked at the blind dude as somebody, you know, and he done pissed me off, so I'm going to do what I want to do. If they catch it, it'll be him. It won't be me, right? So here it is. They catch the envelope. They bump down on both of them. Boom, both of y'all pack your stuff. It's time to go. Where you going? You're going to the hole. That's where you're going in here. When they bump down on you like that and they tell you to pack up, you're either going to the hole or you're getting shipped. That's just that on there. Or you're moving to another cell. In this case, both of them, straight to the hole. Now, these people are not stupid. Don't get me wrong. In my day, back in the day when I was doing what I was doing and shaking the spot, I looked at them like they were just stupid. You know what I'm saying? I did. Now, some of them are. Some of them ain't got the sense God gave a peanut. But for the most part, it doesn't matter if you're not hip to the game or not. The system has contingencies in place that would take a person that ain't got the sense God gave a peanut, and as long as they use the tools available to them through the system, they will be able to catch you. They don't have to be smart. They don't have to be smart. Just use what the system has set in place. And that's what they did. They go through all this training, this, and that. So they got to thinking, wait a minute. We got this blind person that is getting people, sending him money 3 and 4 times a week. I'm talking about $50, $100 licks. He's getting this money sent to him. He comes from money. His family orders packages from him. He gets mail on a regular basis. Now, all of a sudden, he gets drugs in. So they went back and they listened to all of his phone calls. The man ain't said one word about drugs. He's talking about he loves his family. He regrets what he did. He can't wait to see you on the weekend. He can't wait to see you when he gets out. That's it. So they think about it. And they get this training. These investigators, they go through all types of training so they can figure out what it is that we're doing in our mindsets. So they get to thinking about it. Something else is going on here. So they go to listening to his cellular's phone call. And lo and behold, here we go. He's talking all cryptic. Saying this. He never said Suboxones. He never said this. He never said that. But he's talking all cryptic about what he needs them to do. And guess what? They figured it out. See, because here's the thing. Once you know what happened, right? They knew that Suboxones had come in. Because they caught it, right? And now when you listen to a cryptic conversation and you know on the back end what the conclusion is, you can piece it together and say, that's what they meant when they said this. That's what they meant when they said that. See, a cryptic conversation is only good if you don't know the outcome of the situation. Follow me? Are you hearing me? A cryptic conversation is only good if you don't know the outcome. But they knew the outcome. So they deciphered the code. Pop, pop. James Bond, they popped it. Everything has been busted. So when they went and confronted his seller, they told him, said, look here, we know you did it. He didn't do it. Do you want to tell us what happened? And he played the game. No, I ain't got nothing to say. Ain't got nothing to say. So they were like, okay. So you don't mind if your celly goes down with you, right? He was like, nah, I ain't got nothing to do with it. That's him. He came in his mail. They said, wait a minute, hold up. Hold up now. We didn't tell you why you were over here. See, this is another thing, y'all. Let me tell y'all something about pending investigation, because that's what they went to the hole for, pending investigation. When they send you the whole pending investigation, it's a real vague statement. They say you're being locked up pending an investigation. And they don't really just tell you why. So you're just sitting there wondering what is going on. Now, if you know you've done something, you know what it is, right? But they don't put it in writing. They don't tell you what you're in there for until the write-up comes. They hadn't served him with a write-up because they were still investigating the situation. Guess what that means, y'all? He just told on himself. Just told on himself. Again, like I said, most people in here don't think things through. And I'm going to tell you now, I told you before, I'm going to say it again. Sometimes stupid is funny. And I say that in the broadest context because I see things as a process. And when you're in that phase of the process where you're doing stupid things, I say it's funny because eventually you're going to get it and you're going to become a better person. But in the meantime, in between time, you're going to do a lot of stupid stuff. And guess what? As long as it's not hurting somebody else in a very, very bad way, because it's usually going to hurt somebody else. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to look at you and be like, you stupid idiot. And I'm going to laugh at you. I'm going to laugh at you because you don't get it yet. But I'm not going to make it seem as though I'm mad at you. I'm going to tell you, you're going to get it. You just don't know it yet. You feel me? So they went to the blind person. They told the blind person, pack your stuff. You're leaving. And he's like, what's going on? And they told him what was going on. And he stood there. They say he just dropped his head. And he said, is there any way that I can, because he didn't understand how it worked. He said, is there any way that I can get another cellie? When I get out, they said, don't worry about that. He won't be here anymore. He's going, we're going to charge him, and he'll be shipped away from here. You don't have to worry about him anymore. And we'll guarantee that you don't run across him again as long as he's incarcerated and you're incarcerated. That's how they do. So this time when they let him back out of the hole and put him back in the same unit he was in, they made sure to put him in the cell with somebody that would be more empathetic to his situation, sympathetic as well. And that's what happens in here, y'all. You find a lot of people that they're looking for a vulnerability as they see it, a weakness as they see it, so they can take advantage of you. They'll present themselves as long as they have to as somebody that's straight. But be weary and leery, of a person that takes advantage of a person that most people would perceive as lacking in some way or another. Because a person like that, they lay in the cut. They'll get you too. Now. They'll play that role like they straight, but if they'll take advantage of a person that can't fend for themselves in a lot of situations, they will take advantage of you when you turn your back. See, they don't hit you straight ahead because you can peep it. But a person that's vulnerable, they'll hit them straight ahead because they won't peep it at first. They'll trust them. You see what I'm saying? So be careful. And for those of you out there that think this, you built that way, you bought that life, come on, man. I'm just giving you another example of, man, how it goes in here. You think you're slick. You ain't slick. You're not slick, y'all. But I'm going to wrap this thing up, though. That's what I'm going to do. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.